Hello everyone, this is Zane, and I wish to say that I've done a lot of wrestling videos for the last month or so. I've also done a few other types of videos, like what is YouTube, the three major religions, and the last one I believe I did was what is the best 20th century fighter. You have 14, you have 15, you have 5. Now here's another video that is not wrestling related, and hopefully I don't piss off people who are truly big fans of this franchise. This is the video that's going to be in the title. Star Wars. What should have been done for episodes 1, 2, and 3 and beyond. Now let's get into this. I wish to say ahead of time, clearly, Star Wars Episode 4, Episode 5, and Episode 6 should have never been tampered with. I say this clearly for people who are from like 20 or 25 years basically being alive. I'm much older than you. I was born around the time when the first 3 movies were just produced, back in the early 70s. That's when I was born. And I remember seeing Episode 4, Episode 5, and Episode 6. I can understand what George Lucas was going with this. He just wanted to improve on the product, but he ruined it. Ergo, Episode 6 and Episode 1. No, Episode 4 and Episode 6. Not saying there wasn't something done in Episode 5 where they added extra stuff in it, which I can understand. Episode 1, the Death Star. The explosion was a little too much. It was cool, don't get me wrong. I did like how the explosion when they destroyed the Death Star, when Luke destroyed it. It was a nice explosion, but honestly, they didn't really need it. The original explosion was good enough to pass by, and I liked it that way. Episode 6, and I wish to say, is a travesty of justice. The original actor who did Anakin Skywalker at the end of the movie being as part of the Force. I believe it was Jane Fonda's father. I can't remember his first name, but it is Fonda. I believe he is. What they did was take his image out and put the Anakin Skywalker, the actor from Anakin Skywalker from Episode 1, 2, and 3, and insert it in there. Wrong. That was the most disgusting thing you've done in history. And I say this for Mr. George Lucas, if you ever saw this video, you should be ashamed of yourself. The man who did the original Anakin Skywalker deserved to be kept in that position. Why in the hell would you change him to the actor from the current movie? I can understand you saying that he turned from light to dark and back to light, but it's still wrong. They should have left him as he was. It was wrong, it was disgusting, and I don't agree with it. The movie should have stayed in their original entirety, maybe a few video tweaks, maybe a few special effects tweaks with the voice acting, because there were certain things that Lucasfilms wanted to adjust, but it was still wrong. Now, when it comes to Episode 1, 2, and 3, it is the most terrible movies you could ever see. There were some good spots in it. Episode 1, you had the pod racing, which I did enjoy, and the fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi. That were not bad. I was in the theater, this one was going off, everyone went nuts for that fight scene and the pod racing. Everything else was trash. When it came to Clone Wars, I wasn't that interested. Dooku's fight was good with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and seeing Anakin lose the hand made some sense, but it doesn't mean the entire movie was good. It was also trash. Third, Lord of the Sith, I saw it, I was bored with it. It may have explained the reason for Anakin being the way he was, but it was not worth it. This could have been done differently, and I will explain now. As I said in the description, how episodes 1, 2, and 3 should have been done, and beyond. Episode 1, and I state this should have been the name produced for it. Episode 1, The Origin of the Jedi. One thing is never explained, how the Jedi ended up the way they are. What could have been done is basing some of this off the books, or audiobooks, if you heard some of them, like the Tales of the Jedi, or if some people, and unfortunately I can't do it myself because I don't have a computer that's capable of handling it right now. Right now they have Star Wars, their video game that is online. It's an MMO. As far as I know, it's very good. Unfortunately, my system's requirements are too low to actually run it. but basing it off the hyperspace war based in the books and in the audiobooks should have been done. You could also throw in from that how the origins of the Jedi began, why they were allowed to be working with the Republic, and how the Republic was formed. How would you do that? Very simple. During the hyperspace war, in the books, the Sith and the Jedi are fighting one another in a major war, because mainly from trade, from what I understand. I didn't read those books. I have been trying to track down the audio books, and hopefully I'll explain it for me. But essentially speaking is this. While this is going on, you could show the Padawans who are almost near training or just somewhat near training had to be called into service to fight. And they could have been educated by the Jedi and the Jedi Masters. They could have shown little glimpses of the past, how the Jedi began, and how the Sith began, and essentially how the Republic decided to take them in. That would have been good for that movie, and it could have flew right into the next movie, Episode 2. Origins of Yoda. Why the hell didn't he do this? George Lucas never talks about Yoda. I've seen online on YouTube where some people have been trying to come up with something from Yoda from the books or from some of the video games that were made in the 80s into the 90s. George Lucas, if you see this, you're a moron. You should have made a video about Yoda. Yoda is one of the most pivotal players in your Episode 1, in your Episode 2, in your Episode 3, in your Episode 5, and your Episode 6. How the hell you not do that? Who the hell you think you are? Episode 2, The Origins of Yoda, makes perfect sense. You can go from the hyperspace wars directly, since Yoda was about 700 or 800 years old, when supposedly Star Wars was formed already, New Hope. Let it be around the time when he was coming up either as a Padawan or he became a Jedi Knight himself, or when he became a Jedi Master. When was he decided to become the head of the council for the Jedi Order? You could have done this. It could have been done. That's why I say Episode 1, Origin of the Jedi. Episode 2, Origins of Yoda. Episode 3, the beginnings of the rebellion. This is how it should have really been done. Say you take bits of Lord of the Sith. You don't have to show how Anakin becomes Darth Vader. You show well after he becomes Darth Vader physically, and that Lord Sidious, who is Lord Palpatine, or Emperor Palpatine, had told Darth Vader, hunt down the remaining Jedi in the galaxy. This is how it should have been done. Have Darth Vader hunt down the Jedi and establish the Empire, because it was still known as the Galactic Republic. It was still being considered the Galactic Republic, even though you have the trade guild, I think it was the trade guild, basically being squashed. But it was still, most of the world thought they were still in the Republic. Make Darth Vader go to those worlds and conquer them or control them in the name of the Emperor. And while he's doing this, hunting down his old masters like Master Fist unfortunately had Wyndham die in Episode 3. Had Master Wyndham alive. Had a whole bunch of Masters stay alive that would have been destroyed. And since we have Clone Wars, the cartoon series, the animated one, not the one from 2003, the one that's from 2008, Ahsoka Tano, why not throw her in there as well? See how he interacts with his former Padawan, because we never hear him ever having a Padawan in Episode 4, 5, or 6. Episode 1, of course not. Episode 2, of course not. Episode 3, they never say anything about Ahsoka. Let that happen. That would have made more better sense. Because if he thinks about it now in 2008, that means he must have thought about it well before that. So, Episode 1, the origins of the Jedi. Episode 2, origins of Yoda. Episode 3, the creation of the rebellion. Then you could go into Episode 4, basically showing everything that made sense. You could have still left Episode 4 as it is, because when you talk about Episode 4 and when Darth Vader is with basically the Admiral talking about all the planets have now come into line of the Emperor and there is no more Senate, it makes perfect sense, because then you're going to see him eliminate all the people that's gone against the Emperor. The way he had it now is ridiculous. Now the final part, the future, beyond Episode 6. Basically, the Return of the Jedi. You never hear anything other than in the video games, in the video games, in the audiobooks, and in the hardcover books about what happens afterwards. When it comes to Luke Skywalker, this is where they made a serious mistake with Mark Hamill. What they should have did, which would have made it easier for him in his life, because people still plague him because they love him as Luke Skywalker. Why couldn't they had one last movie, Episode 7, talking about when he forms the Jedi Academy, as in the books and the video games? He recreates the Jedi Order. I never understood why George Lucas could not do this. Even if Luke has to do a cameo for 5 minutes to explain what's going on, or at least be seen, that's all that matters. He didn't have to do a whole big segment. I can understand why basically none of the original actors wanted to come back. They want to just move on. But Billy D. Williams, you got Mark Hamill, you got Carrie Fisher, you got Harrison Ford. They all could have did at least 5 or 10 minute cameos for the entire movie. That wouldn't take that long, and it would set up for the next generation of actors to take over, because they go back to the prequels. Are you kidding me? People want to know what happens to Luke, what goes next. They could have killed Luke in the next movie, showing he was dead and his son took over. It could have been anything. And then if you wanted to talk about Anakin Skywalker's past and talk about Luke's son, Anakin's grandson, then you can find holobooks, or what do they call it in Star Wars universe? A holocron, having information of how Anakin was. Let his grandson discover his grandfather. Then you could have put bits and pieces about how Anakin grew up, how Anakin became a Jedi, how Anakin betrayed the Jedi, things like that. That could have gone into Episode 7, Episode 8, Episode 9, and you could have done a TV series from it, even if it was computer generated, like in Clone Wars. You could have continued the entire franchise that way. It would have made more sense instead of disenfranchising your fans, George Lucas. And I say this to the people that are watching this: if you believe that Episode 1, 2, and 3 is crap, it makes sense, give me a comment. Tell me if I make any sense, because honestly, Episode 1, 2, and 3 turned me off to Star Wars for quite a while. I hated the fact of it. They had some, like in the Dreamcast, they had Episode 1 Pod Racer, which isn't bad, and they also had the PC version. Battlefront is good, but they based that in between Episode 4 and 5 and 6. They don't do anything in Episode 7. We're trapped. See it like this: we as Star Wars fans are trapped between loving the episodes that were originally created and loathing the episodes that were created, because it goes basically the way they're making the video games now. They completely wiped out 1, 2, and 3 because they know it sucked. So now they have no choice but to do well beyond prequels into the original Republic, thousands of years before. No one even wants to talk about the future because they think it's tired. But the problem is, they never went beyond Episode 5 and 6. They're trapped between Episodes 5 and 6. And only a few games have ever gone beyond Episode 6. Or even will stick in Episode 6. Because look, most of the games that are made, like Jedi Outpost, Jedi Academy, they're based after Episode 6, but not very far. It's basically just after the Empire has been badly crippled due to the fact that the Emperor is dead. Nothing well beyond that. So the only thing they do is talk about the Old Republic and Star Wars The Old Republic that's currently being played online. What should have been done is what I suggested. So if you believe I'm right about this, subscribe and comment. I really would love a comment on this because I haven't heard anybody really talk that much about it. Not saying that people don't talk about it, I just haven't seen it. But if you agree with me, tell me if I'm right or not. Tell me if Star Wars Episode 1, Origins of the Jedi, Episode 2, Origins of Yoda, Episode 3, the formation of, or whatever you want to say, the birth of the rebellion. That's better. Birth of the Rebellion's great. Tell me if that sounds decent. Well, you have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.